My name is Alina, and in my own house I was a shadow, present yet unnoticed. The walls held more affection than I ever received, while pictures of my brother Ian decorated every corner. Medals, trophies, certificates, none of mine were kept. They lay stacked in a forgotten drawer, yellowing like they were never worth the frame. I often wondered what it felt like to be celebrated. Ian was everything to my mother, the sun, the moon, the pride she wore like jewelry. I, on the other hand, was treated like a background character in a story that was supposed to be mine too. Whenever guests came, she would introduce him with gleaming eyes. My son, future engineer, brilliant boy. And then, as if I was an afterthought, she would dismissively wave toward me. That's Alina, she's just at home. Each time, those words stung like cold needles against my skin. But they didn't know that while they were asleep, I stayed awake, not dreaming useless dreams, but building something real. A laptop on my lap, stacks of research papers beside me, and determination burning like fire in my chest. I created scholarship plans, wrote proposals, built networks with organizations across countries. I spent nights writing articles, coding websites, attending international virtual meetings quietly behind a locked door. It was the only place where my voice mattered, yet mornings were always the same. Mom's voice echoed through the hallway. Alina, make tea, sweep the floor, you have nothing else to do. Nothing else to do, if only she knew. Sometimes I wished she would peek into my room at night, just once, and see the glow of my laptop, the research charts on the wall, my eyes heavy but determined. But she never did. My achievements belonged to a world outside these walls, and inside I remained invisible. Still, I never argued. I never demanded love or recognition. Silence became my shield. I saved the apologies I never received, the affection I never tasted, and I poured them into the world, into the girls who needed help, into the students who deserved chances I never got. My heart ached, but I kept going, because one day I promised myself I would create a world where no girl would be told she was nobody. Little did my family know the nobody they ignored was soon going to be a name that echoed far louder than they could ever imagine. The day my brother announced his engagement, the house transformed overnight. Fairy lights clung to walls, silver dishes were polished until they were nearly mirrors, and for once, every room smelled like celebration. I watched from the doorway, a quiet observer, as Mom hurried from room to room, giving instructions with excitement I had never been the reason for. She stopped when she saw me, eyes narrowing like she had remembered something unpleasant. Alina, wear something simple. Don't draw attention. You know how you are. I nodded, swallowing the familiar sting. Of course, she didn't want anyone noticing me. Evening arrived. Guests filled our home with laughter and perfume, heavy air. Ian stood tall, proud, glowing with the praise he soaked in so effortlessly. Beside him was Mina, his fiancée, elegant, poised, with a softness in her eyes that made her stand apart. She smiled at everyone, including me. For a moment, her smile felt like sunlight through cold clouds. But Mom cut that warmth short. Come sit with us, Mina said gently, patting the empty space beside her. Before I could move, Mother's hand tightened around my wrist. She's better in the kitchen. She answered for me, smiling falsely at the guests. She doesn't talk much. It wasn't that I didn't talk. I had simply learned silence was safer. So I stayed standing, then retreated toward the kitchen like a ghost fading into walls. I mixed spices, served dishes, filled glasses, all while hearing conversations through half-open doors. Ian spoke proudly of his future job, his plans, his goals. Father added details to make him sound even grander. Every compliment toward him was a spark. Every dismissal of me was a dull ache I swallowed with a practiced smile. Halfway through dinner, I walked out with dessert plates. Mina's eyes met mine again, curious this time, searching. She noticed the faint ink marks on my wrist from last night's research notes. Her gaze shifted to the thick book tucked under my arm, Genetic Variations in Immunotherapy Response. Not exactly casual reading. She opened her mouth to ask, but Mother spoke first, loud enough for everyone. Don't bother. Alina reads nonsense to pass time. Nothing serious. Laughter rippled across the table. But Mina didn't laugh. She held my stare, long enough to make my heartbeat flutter, not in shame, but in recognition. Someone, for the first time in years, was noticing me. She offered me a seat again, quietly, gently. And though I didn't sit, that moment settled in my heart like a seed waiting to bloom. Little did they know that single look from her would change everything. Dinner plates were cleared, dessert bowls emptied, conversations softened into comfortable murmurs. The engagement evening was nearly over, and so far, I had been exactly what my family expected me to be. Invisible, Mina excused herself from the group and stepped toward me where I stood near the dining counter, wiping glasses more times than necessary to avoid attention. She tilted her head, observing me with that same thoughtful curiosity from earlier. "You must read a lot," she said gently, as if she already knew the answer. I hesitated. Words sat on my tongue like fragile birds, unused to freedom. Before I could reply, Ian called from across the room, "Mina, don't waste time there. Come sit here with us." Mom's laughter followed lightly, sharpened with superiority. "Alina doesn't have anything interesting to talk about, dear. She just exists." Those words, so casually cruel, landed like stones in my chest. I lowered my gaze, but Mina's eyes didn't leave my face. She reached for the book still tucked under my arm, fingertips brushing the embossed title. "Immunotherapy research," she murmured. Her eyebrows rose. "This isn't light reading." For the first time, I saw surprise, real surprise, not the dismissive kind I was used to. She stepped back toward the living room, but something in her expression had shifted. Curiosity had deepened into suspicion. A silent thread connected us, a question neither of us voiced yet. And then it happened. Sitting beside my brother, Mina unlocked her phone. I saw her lips move as she typed. Slowly, carefully, Alina Khan. The room remained bright and noisy for everyone else, but to me, the world narrowed into silence like the breath before a storm. Mina's eyes widened first, her hand froze around her phone, then she gasped, not softly, loudly enough that the conversation around her stopped mid-sentence. She put her phone on speaker mode and read aloud, voice trembling. Founder Lena Grace Foundation, International Humanitarian Award recipient, 14 medical research publications, global keynote speaker at Stanford, Cambridge. Mom's fork slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a metallic crack. Ian stared at me like I was a stranger. Mina's voice quivered as she reached the final line. Major anonymous sponsor of Ian Khan's university education. Time froze. Every sound died. Every face turned to me. Those who had called me nobody now looked at me as if they had never seen me before. My heart thudded in my chest, not with fear, but with power I had never been allowed to hold. At last, the world inside my home was forced to see who I truly was. The silence after Mina's words was not ordinary. It was thick, like the house itself struggled to breathe. My mother rose slowly, her voice a cracked whisper. "Alina, what is this? Some mistake?" "No." For the first time in my life, my answer was firm. "It's all true. I stood there not small, not unseen, not apologetic. Just me, the girl they called useless. The girl who stayed up while they slept. The girl they never believed in. And suddenly, I wasn't a shadow anymore." Mina walked toward me, her eyes shining not with pity, but admiration. "You inspire hundreds of girls," she said, voice steady. "You funded education for so many, including the man I'm marrying." Ian swallowed hard, face pale. "You paid for my degree." I nodded. "Anonymous donation, yes. I wanted you to have the dreams I wasn't allowed to chase." He looked away, a shamed realization carving guilt into his expression. Mother's voice broke as she stepped closer. "I never knew, Alina. I never even asked." Her eyes brimmed, overflowing with too late remorse. "All these years, we treated you like nothing, and you were everything." She reached for my hands, but I didn't move. I wasn't angry, just finally awakened. "You loved me only when the world loved me," I said softly. "You respected me only when strangers respected me." My voice did not shake. It was steel wrapped in calm. Father's regret was a quiet ache in the room. He opened his mouth, but words failed. He had never really known me either. Mina squeezed my hand gently, grounding me. "You don't need their validation," she whispered, and she was right. My revenge wasn't shouting or screaming. It was standing tall without needing them. It was existing powerfully in the same space they once tried to shrink. That night, I packed my few belongings not out of anger but liberation. Mom begged. Ian apologized. Father promised change, but I only said, "You never lost a daughter. You just never cherished her." Mina hugged me tightly before I left, like she believed in me from the beginning. It was strange how a stranger saw me clearer than my own blood ever did. I walked out of that house with no tears, no bitterness. Only peace, because the sweetest revenge was simple. I became everything they said I never could, without needing them to applaud for it. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't nobody. I was Alina, and the world would never forget my name again.